Hello everybody, here's what's coming up tonight on Now. A couple sits in prison waiting to be tried for the brutal murder of their 10-year-old daughter.
Meanwhile, a child abuse program statewide is in danger of losing funding.
It was simply out of the blue.
Advocates say the LePage administration is making a mistake.
And stepping up security for Maine's high school basketball tournament.
I really had no hope even of walking for years.
Doctors said she could spend the rest of her life in a wheelchair, but at age 80, she's not just walking, she's skating.
This is News Center Now.
The state announces it will cut off funding for a program designed to end child abuse in our state. Hello, everybody. I'm Lee Goldberg.
And I'm Lindsay Mills. This comes not long after two deadly child abuse cases. 4-year-old Kendall Chick was murdered in Wiscasset in December. Her mother is charged with that crime. Just this week, the mother and stepfather of 10-year-old Marissa Kennedy of Stockton Springs are accused of beating the girl to death.
Now, there's no guarantee that a program like Community Partnerships for Protecting Children would have stopped these horrific crimes, but as Christina Rex reports, shutting down this program at such a crucial time was definitely a shock.
Hello. Good. How are you?
Shocked.
It was certainly a disappointment. It was a shock.
Neighborhood food exchanges like this won't be possible without Maine's Community Partnerships for Protecting Children. Leaders were shocked to learn that after 12 years, DHHS, which helped found the program, will stop funding it.
Oh, it's a huge loss. Not only is it a huge loss, one has to begin to wonder about the safety of children.
The CPPC pilot program started in Cumberland and York counties back in 2006. Its mission? Together to keep children and their families safe, engaged, and thriving.
It's a partnership between the community and Child Protective Services.
This mission is accomplished by 3 different methods: a network of community members, parents helping other parents, and resource hubs for interaction and events. The goal is to help children stay safe and to give parents resources and skills so Child Protective Services never has to get involved.
And giving them the support that they need before that crisis ever happens.
Westbrook Police Chief Janine Roberts says the department used CPPC resources as recently as last week to help a woman break out of domestic violence.
That would not have happened, according to the people that were in the front lines working with this particular woman, would not have happened without the connections, and all these connections are made through CPPC.
The program receives $2.2 million a year from DHHS and had recently started spreading to counties all over the state. That funding will dry up when the contract ends on September 30th. DHHS says because the mission overlaps with other state programs.
We looked at the contract and said, is there other agencies, are there other contracts that we have that's overlapping? It's yes.
CPPC organizers fear what will happen to the networks built through the program when its funding is ripped away.
It's akin to building only emergency rooms and not having any doctor's offices.
In South Portland, Christina Rex, News Center, Maine.
Now, the CPPC program will be funded through September 30th. The DHHS commissioner says he will consider keeping some parts of the program and that no decision is final yet.
There is a serious risk of coastal flooding in Maine's beach towns.
Yeah, Keith, sounds like this damage will be kind of restricted to southern Maine.
Yeah, that's definitely true, especially the southern 2 counties in Maine. Here's a look at our storm system as it develops. Really beautiful on the radar, but more so the satellite. You can see that low out towards Cincinnati. Another piece of energy here. The 2 will come together into a really big storm that will sit just to the south of a blocking ridge. Let's have a look at the satellite. Look at this thing. It's already starting to develop, and once you see this by tomorrow morning, it's going to be a really beautiful satellite picture with a low developed to the south and east of Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Now, what it's going to mean for Maine is that the worst of it will be certainly to our south. That was our initial read on it earlier in the week, and luckily that turned out to be the case. But still, we're not without impact. So tonight is fine. By tomorrow morning, we start to see some rain into southern Maine. And what you're not seeing on this particular model is the winds will be starting to pick up here through the morning, but more so midday and into the afternoon, with gusts up to 50 miles an hour, maybe 55 over southern Maine. Notice, though, it is largely rain with just a little bit of snow mixing in. If you're over the northern half of the state, it'll be windy, but you will not see probably any precipitation. Guys, we'll talk about how much wave action we're expecting. We do think it will be at least moderate flooding that occurs.
All right, Keith, thanks. We've been keeping an eye on this for a long time now, and now it's finally here, so we'll look forward to that update. So security and protecting our kids, certainly something we're hearing a lot about now after the school shooting in Parkland. Many of you were demanding metal detectors be installed in all schools, and there were several calls for strengthened security.
And with the high school basketball state tournament games happening over the next few days, event centers are prepared for crowds of people from all over Maine. Chris Costa is live at the Cross Insurance Arena in Portland. Chris, 2 of those games happening tonight.
Yeah, Lee and Lindsay, those Class A boys and girls state championship games happening tonight right here at the Cross Insurance Arena. Managers at 2 of the 3 tournament locations in Portland and Augusta say they have put in increased security measures since last year. Before the students hit the floor and fans fill the stands, they may hear a new buzzer, one they did not hear last year. The Cross Insurance Arena in Portland has metal detectors, just like those you see at an airport.
Part of that experience is making sure that we've provided a secure place for them to bring their family.
The machines bring the arena up to industry standard for security. Staff began using them in November. This year's tournament goers seeing them for the first time here.
It's the first time that the MPA or any other basketball tournament has used them, and the MPA was absolutely for using these to help create a safe environment.
In Augusta, Civic Center staff learned the Maine Emergency Management Agency's counterterrorism training, protecting players and fans gathered for the games.
Unfortunately, it is just kind of a part of our overall general lifestyle at this point. For us, it's the opportunity to turn an event into a memory.
The Cross Insurance Center in Bangor did not return our calls tonight. The Class A boys, Hamden Academy versus Greeley, and the Class A girls, Hamden Academy, also versus Greeley, those state championships kicking off tonight. You can catch the highlights tonight on News Center Maine at 11 o'clock. Lee and Lindsay, back to you.
All right, Chris, thanks so much. Maine students are very active in the security debate, but today a walkout warning from a school district. A letter posted on the School Administrative District 13's website addresses concerns about its staff and students participating in the March 14th national walkout protesting gun violence. Superintendent Virginia Rebar of the district, based in Somerset County, says students and staff who join the walkout will be considered absent without permission. She says the school's legal team told administrators not to encourage participation.
The letter that came about as a recommendation of this leadership group was nothing to do with, promoting or not promoting guns. It has to do with safety concerns regarding our students.
Now, the walkout lasts 17 minutes, one for every victim of the mass shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida.
So we asked you, do you think the school district should tell students if they can participate in a national walkout? Jocelyn writes, the school is doing what it's supposed to do, and the students as well as the teachers will have to decide what is right for themselves. Students protesting is not a new thing. Schools reprimanding students protesting is not a new thing. It is how our society works.
Jason says slippery slope. If a minor leaves campus while the school is responsible for them and is injured, guess who's to blame? Can't blame the school for trying to cover their liability. And Lynn writes, where is the teachers union? They should be backing these students up in a clear, firm, united voice. These kids want sensible gun control and safer schools, something the teachers should be behind 100%. It's a workplace safety issue, too.
Having a voice tonight at 7 here on News Center Maine. We're going to hear from 11 high school students from across Maine in a special program called Listen to Me. Now, these young people have grown up in an era where school shootings happen all too often. They're not just frightened, they're angry, and they want policymakers to do something about it.
I think that in Maine, hunting is a big deal, and that's fine. And if you want to go and have a hunting trip with your family, that's fine. And if you want to have a handgun in your house for protection, but nowhere do we need these AR-15 rifles that are simply meant to kill as many people as you can.
You can hear much more tonight at 7 here on News Center Maine on our Listen to Me special, and join us afterwards to join the discussion on Facebook Live. Lee and Lindsay.
All right, Pat, thank you very much. Such an important issue and obviously something everybody's talking about, so watch for that tonight at 7 o'clock. All right, before we take a break here, Russia's nuclear weapons announcement featured a target that looks strikingly like Florida. Is this a shadowed threat against Mar-a-Lago? We will verify.
We don't believe you, and we're going to come out and see if you really do skate.
Her friends did not believe that she was still figure skating at 80 years old, so she decided to prove them wrong. That's coming up on Now.
Vladimir Putin's virtual nuclear weapons demonstration target Mar-a-Lago? Not really.
Well, before we debunk the rumor, let's tell you the facts. Today, Russian President Vladimir Putin addressed his country, showing off the advanced nuclear arsenal. A computer mock-up shows a submarine cruise missile and an intercontinental ballistic missile, which NATO has nicknamed Satan II. It's an election year for Putin, so he didn't hold back when he praised the technological advances, saying these weapons can't be intercepted and American defense systems are useless against them.
So that's pretty scary to hear, obviously, but American defense experts say that the president could just be exaggerating his military might for the polls. And here's something that has the internet talking. This is a screen grab of the ICBM demonstration. It shows nuclear warheads dropping on what appears to be Florida. Some are speculating Putin is shadily implying that he would target Mar-a-Lago, President Trump's so-called winter White House.
But we can verify that isn't the case. This video first appeared back in 2015, long before Donald Trump was elected president.
All right, here's something that we can verify as fact. Keith's weather forecast is coming up.
He's tracking the risk for coastal flooding. That is straight ahead.
And how addicted are you to social media? I can tell you how difficult it would be for you to give it up. You just have to give me your age. Social Stop is next.
So sometimes you have to crawl before you can walk.
And at 80 years young, one Maine woman is proving skating falls somewhere in there too.
It was a perfect day for a field trip. And for about a dozen residents of Piper Shores, their excursion, while the temperatures rose, was to an ice arena.
Cheers to Alice!
They all showed up to see their friend and fellow resident Alice Abbott ice skate. Like any good host, Alice made sure the seats were ready and the snacks were in place. You see, Alice has been skating for about 5 years, but her friends didn't believe her.
They said, we don't believe you, and we're going to come out and see if you really do skate.
It didn't make sense that she could ice skate, but she couldn't walk.
In fact,
to me, skating is easier than walking. You don't have to watch where you're going.
Alice was in a bad car crash in 1986, which almost killed her. She broke her leg in 47 places. She was in a coma and spent 8 years in a wheelchair. Doctors said she may never walk again.
And progressive, good chasse, pick your foot up.
All these years later, Alice takes skating lessons once a week, and today, in front of her very captive audience.
It is really marvelous that they all wanted to come.
And it was an audience that approved of what they saw.
To me, she's doing beautifully. She looks very graceful. She looks very much at home on the ice, I'll say that too. It's been a treat.
When Alice stepped off the ice and traded in her blades for her cane, the group of well-wishers was waiting.
These are for you.
Oh, gee, thank you.
My tears came in my eyes. You look so wonderful.
I'll never doubt her again.
I mean, it was so much fun just to see her there and to see all of them gathered and watching her.
What was the reaction?
A couple cried. I mean, that last woman we just saw said she cried when she saw her out there. And honestly, all of them said, we wish we could do that too. So there was, envy that, while there she is, Alice, out there skating at 80, almost 81 years old, that they weren't able to do that and they wish that they could. So
it was really cool. Called BS on her initially.
Yeah, they're like, we don't believe you. Well, and because she would say, they'd say, hey, do you want to play cards on Tuesday?
Yeah.
I can't, I'm busy. I have ice skating. Like, sure, ice skating.
Right.
She's like, okay, come watch.
Just one of those excuses
and
they thought.
did.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, we got to talk about this big storm coming our way. Look at this thing on radar starting to develop already. By tomorrow morning, the satellite image is going to be beautiful. I mean, the way it's going to develop, I don't know. It's beautiful to people like me and Jess over there. I don't know if it's beautiful to the average person, but it's going to be a big storm sitting just to the south and southeast of Cape Cod. These two pieces of energy coming together. We've seen this coming for over a week now, And the worst of the storm will be down across Massachusetts. So that's the good news for Maine. The bad news is we will still see significant impacts over southern Maine as the winds tomorrow are pushing onshore in a northeast direction through the day, through the evening, and really through Saturday as well. So it's a relatively long duration wind event, and that piles up water during that time period. What you didn't see much of there was snow. It looks like it'll be largely rain event for us, just crashing to snow here and there in the higher terrain and maybe across southwestern parts of the state. So let's talk about the winds here. By tomorrow midday, we're going to have wind gusts here 40 to 45 miles an hour. By the afternoon, I think we're going to peak out here over southern Maine around 55 miles an hour for a gust. To give you some perspective, down in Gloucester, Massachusetts, they could see wind gusts of 70 to 75 miles an hour. So we're right on the edge of really significant winds. I don't think these winds will be big enough to cause widespread power outages, but they will, again, pile that water up through the day on Friday, through the day on Saturday, too. So Saturday, the precipitation is gone, but notice it's still very windy with wind gusts of 35 miles an hour, and it's still breezy on Sunday before this storm moves away. So coastal flooding concerns here are numerous. It's not just Portland, down into Wells and Kittery and Kennebunkport. Those are the spots I think that will be hardest hit with the flooding. And we do have a chance to get over 13 feet, not only Friday night, but I think again on Saturday. That would put us in the moderate flooding range, and if we get over 13 feet, it would put us in a top 5 situation in Portland. So this is something we're going to have to watch with the water. It already flooded today across parts of southern Maine just because of the tide itself. But again, absent in this nor'easter is very much snow. Now again, just off screen down in Massachusetts, they could get in the Berkshires a foot of snow. Just not going to happen here. We're going to see some mixing here and there, but most of us basically nothing as far as accumulation. It's all about the wind and the onshore flow pushing the waves. So, guys, this is a situation where I think the places that typically flood will flood very badly. I think that's the best way to look at it. We know the spots in the newsroom, unfortunately, where we can go and we can see that flooding. So if you're in one of those spots, I think it's going to be worse than what you normally see during a nor'easter. The good news is we're missing the worst of it because it could be Boston's biggest flood event, period. So Historic. It's going to be really huge for them, and we're just on the edge of that envelope.
Okay.
Yeah. Guess it's good to be up here right now.
Yeah, it is right now.
Yeah. Sitting pretty.
Thanks, sir. All right, other news now. A college baseball coach says he will no longer recruit from a certain state because the kids there can't pass drug tests. This email from Texas Wesleyan baseball coach Mike Jeffcoat is spreading across social media. It was written to a prospect from Colorado, and it says, quote, "In the past, players have had trouble passing our drug test. We have made a decision to not take a chance on student athletes from your state. You can thank your liberal politicians," end quote. Recreational marijuana is legal in Colorado. The high school player says he never intended for the email to be shared.
I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble here, or my intention wasn't trying to get this guy fired. My intention was just try to play baseball. Like, this wasn't meant to go viral for me or anything. Like, I just sent it to a high school teacher of mine, and it just went public like that.
Maine voted to legalize recreational marijuana, and there are more states and more every election year. So is it even fair to punish the kids for that?
I know I was in his shoes at one point, applying to all these colleges, sharing my tape of my skills as a field hockey player. And if I heard that kind of response from a coach, I would have been absolutely devastated.
Yeah, well, it's ridiculous to paint every single child in the same picture of whatever state law is. I mean,
right.
It's ridiculous.
You can't make those assumptions.
For their part, Texas Wesleyan officials say that they are obviously investigating this, and the coach's email does not reflect the school's values or their recruiting practices.
Breaking news tonight, social media can be addicting. All right, that's not exactly new information, obviously, but a survey published tonight confirms it is hard to quit, and it depends on how old you are. According to the Pew Research Center, 40% of the people surveyed said it would be hard for them to give up social media, but 4 years ago, 28% said they would find it difficult. And as kids are getting introduced to screen time at younger ages, it really shouldn't come as any surprise that the study also found the younger you are, the harder it is to part ways. More than half of people using social media ages 18 to 24 said it would be hard to break up with it. 40% of users ages 25 to 29 said the same thing, but get this. People over 50 have no problem. 66% of them say it wouldn't be a struggle. Now, that survey was based on interviews conducted just last month and included 2,000 adults living in every state. So now my question is it too late to give up social media for Lent? I don't really know. Asking for a friend, asking for me.
Okay, so I'm not 50 yet, but I am in that percentage. If social media goes away tomorrow, I have no problem with that. I'm obviously a lot closer to 50 than you are, but
right, you don't mind being disconnected.
Nope, take it away.
I know, it is a blessing to
All right, Cindy Williams going to take it away, too. Let us know what's coming up on 5:30. Hey, Cindy.
Hey guys, so can having a police officer on school grounds make kids feel safer at schools? And parents say absolutely, and they are pushing to bring at least one school resource officer to every one of their schools. Chris Rose will have more on that tonight at 5:30. And once you've sent your DNA off to a genealogy lab, do you know what they do with that information? They sell it. We've got details on that and more coming up at 5:30. Back to you.
All right, Cindy, thanks so much. Stick around. More now after this.
All right, Professor, the class is all here for you.
Nobody told me about this, but that's okay. All right. Today, this is your idea, actually, Lee. You said, let's talk about the Farmer's Almanac. We always bring it up at the beginning of the winter. Let's see how they did. Today was the beginning of meteorological spring. So they speak in vagaries, as you know, because they have meatloaf recipes in the Farmer's Almanac, so that's important to note. Cold and snowy is what they said. How do you guys feel about that? What do you think this winter has been like?
It has been very cold.
Okay.
Inconsistent is what comes to mind.
Half credit.
Inconsistent would be a good way to put it. Let's go to the next graphic and show you that we are running above average for snow, so they would get some credit for that. Do we have the next one? Maybe. Max one. There we go. All right. They're a little bit above average in Portland, Bangor, and Caribou, so they'll get some credit for that. As far as cold, dead on average, because January was cold. This February, of course, was record warm, and December was basically neutral. But I still think that our News Center team is going to come out on top, and for one simple reason. Let's roll the soundbite here from our winter weather special. Looks like my career, peaking early and then kind of winding down.
Wow, that's true.
Later, you know, March, April, maybe we have less snow. Last couple of winters, we had some big snow in the spring.
Okay, so front-end loaded this year, probably an easier spring.
Front-end loaded is what we said. And unless something drastic happens at the end of March, I think we can all agree late December, early January was winter. And now we've been cruising ever since then.
Or we've at least just hit the pause button on winter.
Right, unless something drastic happens. But it'll be interesting to see where we end up with all of these numbers. And it also brings to the point that the Farmer's Almanac is more entertainment. And they're aware of that for the most part. No, they are. Peter, who publishes it, is aware of that. And when you use just adjectives, it's a little harder to quantify.
You know, a lot of people rely on the Farmer's Almanac if they're planning like an outdoor wedding or that sort of thing, looking out into, you know, that far in advance.
Hey, if a bride needs to know 3 months in advance, go look in the Farmer's Almanac, because there's no way to actually do that. So, but we'll see how the winter turns out and see who we give the check mark at the end.
Good job.
Yay!
Dismiss.
5:30. Dismissed.
Right now.